Hello, everybody, and welcome to something a little bit different for Outlast Trials. It's something a little less scripted. It's something that I figured would be kind of interesting to discuss just because we haven't really discussed the victims of Outlast Trials. And YouTube doesn't like showing a lot of violence nowadays, and so I figured let's do something a little goofy. A tier list of the most painful deaths of Outlast Trials. I'll try to show some gameplay footage where I can, but again, this video is going to be a little loosey-goosey as we wait for the new update of the PvP, which should be appearing sometime, I think I've seen around the 21st. It could be a little later. To kick off our tier list, though, I wanted to start with, of course, the very first one that we will generally be doing, and that is the Snitch. It might be a little hard to see the picture, but I figured we'd run down on maybe what we know of the Snitch while we do this tier list, and sadly they're all going to be kind of similar because we don't know a lot of the victims. We can guess, of course, as the Snitch mentions in some of his voice lines that, is this the therapy? Am I getting better? I would like to get out now. It's very clear that he most likely was a reagent, and his death is mostly affiliated with shocking. You are putting him through the electric chair because it is all affiliated with justice and the judicial process. Ironically, I could put him in shock sets in, but I don't think shock does. I don't think shock sets in for a lot of them, so I don't know if any of them will really get into this tier list, but realistically speaking, we will try to put one in because, let's be honest, some of these people should have had shock set in. If I had to put the Snitch in this tier list, which I am, I would like to think it's pretty unspeakable because, and my reasoning is because you can technically prolong his death pretty long, because as you were doing this, even on like a standard difficulty, Coil is chasing you, and so you're shocking him, and then you have to run away or like deal with Coil. Then you have to come back, shock him a little bit more. You're slowly building up this final shock. So he's not just getting electrocuted, if I remember correctly. Feel free to correct me down in the comments. It has been a while since I've done every single one back to back, but from what I remember, you build up the shock. It's slowly shocking him as you're doing it. So not only is it slowly building up, you're running back and forth, trying not to get hit or whatever. You come back, and then you finally shock him. He's still in agonizing pain. He's still being shocked. It's a pretty unspeakable death. So moving on to Bootleg Jesus, which I do find that name very interesting, we again come to another person who seems to be affiliated as a reagent, I would assume, or some close relationship with Dr. Easterman, because he does have voice lines that mention, "Tell Easterman, tell him I've learned." He seems to be somebody who is a part of the trial in that sense. He's learned either the vision of God or something, you know, he's closer to God, or he's learned his lesson on the trials, not to misbehave, not to cause a ruckus. Whatever the reason may be, Bootleg Jesus is strapped up, crucifixion, and of course he gets his knees sawed off for those who have played the trial. Again, I would love to show footage, but I'm pretty sure YouTube would, you know, they'd really crack down on me. If I had to say where Bootleg Jesus goes, it's probably a horrific slow death, because, so shocking obviously sucks. I'm trying to like rationalize my thoughts here, but you slowly saw his legs off. This is not like a buzzsaw. You are like slogging him down like a tree, back and forth, manual style. So not a lot is really keeping that going. A lot of the deaths are automatic. They're machine-based. They're, you know, they just get put through this machine and it like goes through this ringer that constantly goes on. This is manual. 2 reagents or 1 has to saw back and forth his knees. And even then, the knees aren't going to kill you when you saw them off. So he's going to bleed out. It's going to be slow. It sucks. Moving right along, we come to the Bootleg Futterman, I believe is the name. And Bootleg Futterman knows of Mother Gooseberry. He has the Futterman head on, but his voice lines, "I'm your dad, I'll be your dad, I'll be whatever you want." He's clearly somebody who's been put through this, and he is just trying to get any way out of here. He will play the part, he'll do whatever. He just doesn't want to die, as most of these victims are. Of course, though, his death is kind of weird because it hits, if I recall correctly, it hits directly in the back of his spine, like he is being drilled down. Logic says he should be dead pretty quick, or at least, something should be severed pretty quick to the point where pain should be irrelevant. I would like to think it might hit more near the shoulder blade. I'm trying to think where exactly it hits. I think he is still pretty much screaming and alive, as most of these are. But I would like to think he's a tough one. He should either be shock sets in because it is hitting right at the spine or somewhere close to it, or quick. I mean, once you sever the spine, especially that high up, I mean, you're basically just decapitating somebody. But it is with a drill, so we'll put him in shock sets. And honestly, I mean, it's horrific and slow, but if I remember right, it's pretty quick. You activate it, it drills down, he's dead. The only reason I'm not putting it in quick is because it is a drill. It is just immediately that, it has to enter slowly, and I don't think it just drops on him. It enters slowly. I would like to think he's dead pretty quick. We now come to the judge, who, again, running thing going on here, likely was a reagent. Her voice lines, to my knowledge, looking them up, she does mention that she's in the judge's seat. I was supposed to get out. It's very likely that she was promised freedom. She was promised to get out, but lo and behold, they didn't do that. She either knew something too much, or she made it very clear that she was going to judge Murkov, thus the ironic bit of putting her in the judge's seat. And she wants you to destroy, I believe, the Avalanos mannequin. In a twist, cruel irony, though, if she was a reagent, she does spend a lot of the time begging for Coil's help, which is very interesting that she is on the opposite end. She is now, if she was a reagent, she went from facing Coil, probably seeing him as the villain, to basically, she'd rather be with Coil than deal with whatever you're going to do. She knows what's going to happen. She doesn't want to be in the seat, and she'll even say it, like, not guilty, I said it, just kill me fast. She doesn't want to be tortured. So it's very slow. It's very obviously slow because it breaks her knees first, I think. Then it breaks her arms, and then it kills her. So the only benefit is that it kills her pretty quick at that point because it's a system. I think it does it all in one go, like knees, legs, bam, like head. It doesn't slowly do it. I think. I could be wrong. I do apologize for not remembering every minor detail, especially because you're usually at this point in the game, you're frantically running around from Coil. But it's rough because it's not the slowest death. Comparatively, I would say it's painful. Is it unspeakable to have your bones broken? I mean, probably in this situation, again, shock would probably set in, which we're gonna have to play this one pretty loosey-goosey because most of these shock would set in. You're getting your legs sawed off, you're probably gonna go into shock pretty quick. It's difficult to say. It's pretty unspeakable, but at least it goes pretty quick once you get your bones broken. Like, they're broken, and then you die because the two hammers smash the head. So it's like, it's one of those, like, you're getting that pain and then release. So, but it's not quick either. Moving on, we come to Oscar, which I don't know where this name comes from, but I imagine it's just because he's in a trash can, or a trash compactor, technically. But, they're trying to go for Oscar the Grouch, I assume. But again, he is a reagent. He will mention that you have to get him out, and that is this what this place is all about, getting better together. He is quoting the announce speakers, but we're not here to judge him based on if he's a reagent or not. We are here to judge him on how painful his death is. And Oscar's death is probably horrifically slow. A trash compactor is not very quick, and depending on the age, they're pretty slow anyway, let alone one that's going through people. And you're putting trash in, so logic says that's filling up. It's probably not filling it up by much, but the more stuff that's in it, the more that it's going to slow down, and the slower you're going to get crushed. So let's just say it's a decent amount of trash that's in there with him. Let alone the fact that he mentions that he's been in there for hours or potentially days. So not only is he potentially starving to death, he's been basically trapped in a trash compactor for who knows how long, he's then slowly getting squished. It's a pretty horrific and slow death. We move on to the deviant, who has a terrible photo, by the way. I couldn't crop it correctly. But he's the guy in the factory where you put him through the conveyor belts. You cover him in wax, you remove his privates, you replace his privates, and then you burn him alive. It's very safe to say he has a horrific slow death, but here's the weird thing. He seems kind of into it. He seems pretty chill with it. So he's kind of a weird one. For any normal human being, they're going to be in a horrific slow death, agonizing pain. But he doesn't seem to be super bothered into it until he starts burning alive, and even then he seems pretty okay with it. It's not quick though, so I think I'm gonna put him in unspeakable, because I mean, one, it's an unspeakable way to die, but he's clearly not in horrific pain. He seems pretty chill with it. His past, though, he doesn't mention any major lines about being a reagent, so he's actually the only one that stands out in that sense. He does know Mother Gooseberry, though. He mentions wanting to look good for Mama, I think he says, which I think, for obvious reasons, that would be Mother Gooseberry. So I'm wondering if he's one of the children that were brainwashed and he's grown up. If I had to guess, though, he's just for one, a deviant. I think he's called the deviant. He's clearly just some weirdo that's super into Mother Gooseberry, and he's just maybe that brainwashed that he wants whatever she wants. And if you say that this is what she wants, he's all for it. That sends us over to the mules, which, for those of you who are unaware, they are strapped to the table, and you must saw them open to then put drugs inside, making them drug mules. One of them mentions that all that arm wrestling, let me get the quote right, all that arm wrestling, and I can't manage to get a hand free. They're blatantly reagents. Again, we're going back to the age-old trope of they are reagents. They don't die super quick, as many don't, but they get sawed open, and then, a guy is reaching inside them, putting drugs in. So it's pretty painful, I would like to think. Is it unspeakable, though? Is it horrific and slow? It's pretty slow, but it's not horrific, right? You're not being tortured. I would like to think shock sets in, which it could. Because when you saw them, they are still writhing, and then you stick your hand in, they're still kind of moving, and then once you're done, I think they stop moving. It could be shock. They could theoretically still be alive. So I think I'm going to put them in shock. I think that makes sense. Again, the argument could be made that it's painful. I don't think it's as unspeakable as these. Honestly, the snitch could still also be moved to painful. It's very difficult. The tier list is very difficult in that sense when it's just a level of pain and it feels like they're all getting put through horrific amounts of pain. The district attorney. We don't get to hear a lot about him because of his leather mask that he's wearing. But if we base it off the fact that he is the district attorney, the prosecutor, the DA, though we have a judge who was a reagent, I would like to think this is probably taking on the fact that this is an actual lawyer who perhaps was fighting against Murkoff. One of the many things that I'm sure Murkoff gets into is a lot of legal trouble. And lo and behold, if one just so happens to disappear, then it sends kind of a powerful message, along with the fact that they get to teach a lesson to the reagents that are doing the trial. It is very safe to say, though, that he has a slow death because, if I remember correctly, that's going to be a running theme for this tier list. I do apologize. But you do 4 different sequences. The first sequence, when it ends, I believe it spins a drill into his crotch. Obviously horrific. When the sequence ends the second time, it ends with a chainsaw dismembering his arm, one of his arms, and then the other one starts and drills, piercing his other arm. And then the fourth one ends by decapitating him. That's the only quick part of that, is the fourth sequence. But mind you, there is gaps between those sequences. So it is just, he is being drilled constantly. He is being, chainsawed. He is being dismembered. It's a horrific slow death, I would like to think. Generally, going for the crotch first. Maybe if it was like second to last, you could argue that it's like, oh, well, he gets decapitated. That's quick, right? But, starting crotch first is pretty difficult. Moving on, we go to the Union boss, who I believe, much like many others, kind of calls out to Dr. Easterman and Franco Barbie. He seems to know about them. Being a Union boss, it could be a sign that he is a worker, that he used to work for Murkoff, and this is kind of their way of showing like, oh, if you want fair rights for the reagents, this is what happens to you. He could be used as a bit of a symbol, basically. Of course, he could also just be a reagent. Again, not much is known about the victims, but his death is that he slowly drowns. But here's the thing with drowning. He could technically speed up the process. Horrifically, yes. But if he just breathed in some of the stuff, admittedly it's blood, and he's got a bag on his head, so it's probably like he'd be waterboarding himself with blood first. But theoretically speaking, he could have the quickest death. He doesn't, mind you, he doesn't, because he doesn't do that, as any sane person wouldn't. But if you're in a pinch, right? So here's the thing. I'm gonna put him under quick because you could end it quicker. He has full access to his hands. He has, theoretically, he has the most access to theoretically end it quick. Everyone else is strapped in. They are locked in. They can't do anything to really speed up the process. Horrific that it may be, he could end it quicker for himself. It's still gonna suck. So again, I could put him under horrific and slow. But because he is probably the closest to being quick, along with maybe the scapegoat, it is hard to say. If I had to not take that into account and go off of the death as it goes, as it does, it's horrific and slow. I believe drowning is one of the worst ways to go. From what I understand, drowning is generally, yeah, like you panic, you at most you might pass out and then drown. So maybe that's like the, oh, it's not that bad. At least you're not in pain. But it is slow. Drowning isn't exactly, a chill death, and shock definitely isn't setting in. It's definitely between these two. I'm gonna leave him under quick because, again, I think out of all of them, he has the most access to end it quick. But hey, again, this is just a goofy tier list. Let me know what you think down below. I'm also sure I'm missing a few victims, but I could be wrong. Before we get to the politician, though, I kind of want to swing on over to the scapegoat. They don't seem to be reagents. They seem to be expops, experimental population, though they seem to be those that don't really cooperate well with the prime assets, because though they mention being get along guys, they don't seem to be very cooperative. They struggle to cooperate. They were shy. And then they try to mention that they have a wife and children, most likely to make the reagents feel guilty. But they're kind of a weird one because they're an experimental population technically, but they're only used as victims to be hunted down. So they're kind of in between. They have a device stuck in their mouth, wires hooked up to their head, and a pipe bomb of some sort hooked up, where once the reagents use the microwave receiver, I believe is what it's called exactly, they do it like once to 3 times, depending on the type of scapegoat, because the first time you do it, it's like one and done, and then you have to hunt them down and then use it a couple more times. It's a little bit of a shock. It doesn't seem to cause them that much harm at first, but of course, the final go, the pipe bomb explodes and that's it. So it's pretty quick in comparison to many of these. But it's still probably painful getting the shock. And then of course, you know, the bomb seems to take a while to go off, which I don't know if they're trying to say it's like charging up, but it does just kind of beep. And so it could just be, oh, the timer is now on, and then beep, 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 boom. But yeah, they seem to be one of the quickest victims that we encounter in the Outlast Trials. Finally, that leaves us with just the politician, whom has a pretty slow death, as he is hooked up to this kind of marionette machine, kind of imitating that politicians are all on strings and stuff like that. He is melted alive with corrosive liquid. Eventually, when you meet him, he you know, you bump into him, you try to spray him, but there's no pressure. So you have to then turn on the pressure, come back, and then start spraying him. It's not quick, though, because you have to avoid auto and aurora while also, I believe, building back up pressure, so you have to pump it back up. And then you have to spray him a little and a little and a little. By the time you are done, you are slowly melting him alive, but he does not die quickly. You are spraying his, like, torso, and it's slowly, and it's not like, it doesn't seem to be an extremely strong acid. It's not like you're just melting him through and through immediately. You're like spritzing him down, and you're slowly melting him down to the point where you just kind of see bone. It's safe to say it's a horrific and slow death. Again, this is kind of a weird video. Due to the kind of the gap in the content, I didn't want to do anything super major because I want to be ready for the new content for you guys. So that way I can get the files and then try to, you know, discuss that. I would be interested to hear people's thoughts on subjects that I haven't covered yet, because I feel like I've covered most of the subjects in Outlast. Again, this is kind of just a goofy video, a little bit out in left field, but still kind of interesting because we got to talk about the victims. Of course, if there's things that I forgot, as always, feel free to let me know. But to my knowledge, I think that's all of the victims. A lot of these tiers could kind of all go into horrific death. I could make the argument that, you know, the bootleg Futterman would go in horrific slow death because, again, he doesn't seem to die immediately, but he should. If it's hitting his spine, he should die pretty quick. This one probably unspeakable because it's not slow. To my knowledge, it happens pretty quick. It's like legs, arms, bam, done. It's horrific, but it's not really slow. The snitch could probably come down to painful because he's just being shocked. Like, he's not being melted alive or burned alive. You know, he you know, being shocked is obviously horrendous, but ironically, shock could set in. You know, you could just get knocked unconscious. But I'd be interested to hear your guys' opinions. Maybe the tier list is a little too narrow. Maybe I didn't do a wide enough, you know, pain threshold. But, you know, again, kind of just a fun little video to kind of discuss the victims. If there's any major details that I missed, of course, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to like the video and share it around with those that you know. We'll be doing some more lore, of course, for Outlast Trials. So now we would probably be going more into theory, which I do have a few theory videos that I want to do. So if you're interested in some theory videos, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. That way you can stay notified when the videos come up. So far, we've been doing every Friday for Outlast Trials. But of course, that might change. We might switch over to just Outlast, which maybe people will be interested in that. Let me know down in the comments. I'd always love to hear it. I love to see new people kind of swing by, leave their opinions, chat about the subject. It's always great to see. But of course, hopefully I see you all in the next video. See you then.